been disabled.
I'm going to tell you the truth about it. Some people that does get it, the welfare and the relief, does not deserve it. And some that really needs it seriously and badly cannot get no help in any way. I have went up there to welfare many, many times. And I've asked for help when I was seriously in need bad of help. And they would not give me nothing.
So you went to?
So I went to the League Center, and that was my only way out.
You always have smart answers, don't you, Bill? I mailed the envelope with the... So in April, we decided that we'd do it different. There'd be...
They say that money isn't managed right, we're putting out too much and we're not getting anything back. Well, this might be true in the larger cities, I don't know, but Licking County, Newark, is small and the people need the program. They're sitting in Washington saying this. You know, they should come down here and find out if those services are available.
This program is for children.
Would like to ask some of you to share some of these. Your center had an unusual...
I am a direct son of a slave. Both of my parents were born in slavery.
Sometimes I don't like school.
Sometimes you don't like school. Why not?
Because too many people steal.
Too many people do what?
Too many kids steal.
Well, you remember the first day I took you?
A little better this morning. The nurse just left him.
No, I'll see you later.
There are 27 different agencies, but the people don't come out into the area and say, do you need the help? What can we do for you? You've got to go to them, and the people just don't know where to go. There were senior citizens that was receiving Social Security only, and they didn't know that they could also get food stamps. Or if their income wasn't large enough, they could also receive a check from welfare. I think it's the outreach work that is the most important thing as far as Leeds is concerned. Going out, finding what the problems are, and solving them.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13, 15.
It's a whole lot of them.
There's children. That one up there. 18. How many did we count? 19 squirrels. Yeah. Hear that? Look at the bear. Let's upside down. Look at you. Let's count the bears, Mom. You're not coming to school, grumpy. 1, 2. He's upside down.
Paul Marsh.
Majority of the folks in the community have just only within the last couple of years learned to trust somebody from the outside. And as a result, they are contributing their own selves to coming into the centers and now being trained, being tutored, being educated, being prepared for a better life, the one that you and I are fortunate enough to enjoy.
Set up this neighborhood center. I have been instructed in many things which prior to this existence I had no chance to endeavor. And for that cause, we prayed to Almighty God that the OEO will never pass from the scene.
An explosion tore through a daycare center today in Atlanta's predominantly black Bowen Homes housing project. Officials say 4 children and an adult were killed and 7 persons were hospitalized. Sam Ford was there.
There were more than 90 people inside the daycare center when the explosion ripped out the back wall, witnesses said, sending debris and children flying through the air. Catherine Osborne was preparing lunch for the children at the time.
Can you tell me what happened?
No, all I know was the wall just crashed in on me.
In the pandemonium that followed, just about every ambulance in Atlanta was dispatched to the scene. Authorities worked frantically, digging the dead and injured from the rubble as parents ran screaming in search of their children. For some, their worst fears were true.
My latest called me and told me the school had blown up down here, and I came down and there it was.
And how did you find out your little boy was a victim?
Well, I didn't want to see him. His mother went in there and she seen him.
Authorities believe the explosion was caused by gas leaking from a furnace. But this tragedy comes as Atlanta is undergoing a rash of mysterious child murders. 14 black children murdered or missing in a little more than a year. So many residents were suspicious.
Based on what our fire and police officials have told us, the only evidence we have at this time indicates that this was an accident. Just a minute. Just a minute.
Many people sat down and cried afterward, including one teacher who managed to save all the members of her class.
And all of a sudden the building just went poof, and all I could think was just hit the door and get the children out. Just get out, children, get out, get out.
The city soon ordered the 6 daycare centers it runs evacuated after receiving numerous bomb threats. The mayor says all will remain closed until they can be thoroughly inspected. Sam Ford, CBS News, Atlanta.
You have no idea what we went through to get these tapes. We have to watch all of them here. They won't let me take them to my office. So I need you guys to help me out. I want you to take notes on each child, write down every single thing you can remember about him or her. First kid we're seeing is Jonathan Lawson. Okay.
We can skip him. I came to the school after he was gone.
Well, I think this tape is going to show that he remembers you. So let's refresh your recollection, as they say in the courtroom.
I've got some really crazy-looking dolls to show you. These are as nutty as anything.
Wow, that's weird.
These kind of look like cupcakes, don't they? She has a belly button. She has hair on her vagina. And this one has a penis. Now I'd like you to look at a picture. You know him, don't you? Remember him?
Yeah, I think.
I think.
Now, was he a teacher when you were in school back then?
No, I don't think I remember him.
Look at his face.
No.
Was he around? Maybe back then?
No, I wasn't.
Who's she to do this?
Listen.
I didn't see him much. Once or twice.
The older kids like you have to help the little kids because they're not as smart as you. And we found out some crummy stuff happened to these little kids. Do you think you might be able to help us out?
Didn't happen to me.
No, it didn't happen to you?
Somehow I can't remember. I'm not sure about it.
Well, sometimes some of this stuff is really hard to talk about. And that's why we use puppets. Hi, Snake. Some of the kids told us they played yucky games, and the teachers would touch them in some yucky places. Did something like that happen to Jonathan?
To me, it didn't.
Didn't happen to Jonathan?
No, it didn't happen to me. No, it didn't happen to me.
Didn't happen to me.
Do you guys remember the tickle game?
Tickle game?
Come on, your memory can't be that bad. All your best friends say you played it. What's the matter, Snake? Isn't your memory as good as theirs?
I remember the tickle game.
See? What a good memory.
I thought I had a bad one.
It might be better than you thought. Maybe you could show us how the tickle game was played.
We'd crawl around, and they'd try to get us. They'd go slow and tickle us.
Was it a naked game sometimes?
They'd go like this, and pull up my t-shirt and tickle my belly. That's all that happened.
That's all that happened?
Yes.
This kid could end up saving your life.
Okay, you guys remember the naked movie star game?
Naked movie star game?
It was sort of a fashion show, I think. Walk across the room, turn around and around.
What did the grown-ups do?
I think, I'm not sure, taking pictures?
Boy, you're really something. Who was taking pictures? We're really trying to test your brain here.
It was Ray, I know that.
Oh, what? Yeah.
It was Ray, I know that. It was Ray, I know that.
Amazing! Amazing!
A bizarre story unfolded in a Los Angeles court today, a story involving sexual abuse of children in daycare centers, a case that prosecutors say could have national implications. We have a report from Terry Drinkwater.
Nationally, over 1 million children are now in daycare centers and nursery schools, enrolled in most cases because their mothers must work. In this school, like the vast majority, the youngsters are properly cared for. But elsewhere, in alarming numbers, preschoolers have been exploited sexually. What prosecutors charge happened here at the McMartin School in a suburb of Los Angeles is just the latest, though perhaps the most shocking case in the country. Today, Virginia McMartin, 3 family members, and 3 teachers were charged with more than 100 counts of child molesting. The prosecutor argued for no bail, citing fear among victims' families that if the McMartin staff were not behind bars, they might harm the children again.
My children are afraid to play outside alone, for fear Ray will come and grab them.
The district attorney believes that toddlers have been victimized at this school for the past 10 years. As required by law, the state makes surprise checks on the schools. A 1978 report, the children happily enjoyed their indoor and outdoor activities. And later, well-run and well-staffed. All is in good order. The school had a long waiting list.
It had all of the appearances of being a well-run, sound operation.
Parents charged the inspectors were negligent. But why didn't the youngsters tell their parents what was happening to them? Prosecutors say, in this case, as in most child molestation cases, the victims were threatened.
If a child's puppy is beheaded in front of him, or a rabbit, and someone sticks a knife in that rabbit, that's a very convincing thing, because what invariably goes along with that act is the statement, "This is you," if you talk.
Key McFarland has treated hundreds of sexually abused children.
This is a little girl, and it looks like a real little girl. It's got a little belly
She showed us how she uses anatomically correct dolls and puppets to try to coax the truth from preschoolers.
Mr. Parrott, can you help Susie show us what happened to her?
There is a mic and a recorder, less painful than talking about it to a person.
The way that you make yucky secrets go away is you tell them. And then they're out of you, and they don't make you feel bad inside anymore.
Rain Jacobs was 4 when she was abused in another suburban Los Angeles nursery school. She's now 8 and still in therapy.
It's going to take a long time before she feels like she's a real person, that she's worth something, and that she really is a good little girl.
Cynthia Taylor's son was 2. He's now 6.
He had a lot of resentment towards me because I'm the one who made him go. Yes. He'd tell me every morning he didn't want to go.
And you know why now?
Yes, now I know why, because he had been abused.
The problem is so vast, some schools are beginning to teach children that they are indeed very vulnerable.
Does everybody know about private parts? Everybody know what that is? Private parts of your body? You know that your body belongs to you? Nobody has a right to touch your body if you don't want them to. Or in ways
And the lesson? What to say to someone who touches you.
Leave me alone.
Good.
Meanwhile, in the McMartin case, there have been denials from some of those charged.
I saw no evidence of anybody harming any children.
For the prosecution, there will be the problem of youngsters testifying.
Most children, when they are molested by a person that they trust, a person they have confidence in.
And parents beyond this and other courtrooms?
They don't want to face that these things do happen, and they do, all the time.
Studies show in this country 1 youngster in 4 is sexually abused before reaching high school. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Want the best for their children, but they can't always be sure what that best might be. Sometimes when they do what they think is best, they find out later they've been terribly wrong. More and more working parents have been deciding that daycare is the best for their children. And now many of those parents are wondering if they've been wrong. They're worried about the children. The Children is our cover story, reported by David Culhane.
I'm taking my other child out of daycare school, too. These are my kids.
This is a terrible crime. Terrible crime. Only animals would do those things. Give it to me. I'll castrate them.
Now you never know. It could be happening anywhere.
And it is happening all around the country. In New York, 4 workers at a daycare center are charged with sexual abuse of the very children for whom they were responsible.
Innocent.
You didn't do this,
I didn't do anything to anything.
In California, several teachers stand accused of molesting the children in their preschool nursery. In Florida, a man operating an unlicensed babysitting service faces the same charges, involving as many as 24 children.
Oh, this is something that ruined them the rest of their life. These are babies.
I was going to put my son in there, my 4-year-old son. Imagine they would have did that to him.
About 7 million children under 5 are in licensed daycare centers and nursery schools. Millions more are cared for informally by unlicensed workers. Economics, the women's movement, and the divorce rate have produced a massive entry of women into the workforce. More than 6 million mothers of preschool children work outside the home. Mothers and fathers are confronted with tough choices about who should look after the children. Now, the current wave of sex abuse scandals across the nation has produced new anxieties.
Many parents around the country have begun to wonder if there is something about daycare institutions that makes them vulnerable to cases of sexual abuse of children.
You know, to think that somebody could do that to little kids, you know, like that. I really feel bad, and I want something done about it.
Deborah Searcy believes that her 2 daughters were among those who were sexually abused at the daycare center in New York.
Over and over. You know, because sometimes she'll come in the room and she'll just sit by me and she said, Mommy, I hate that man. I hate him. I said, who you talking about? And she'll call his name. She said, I hate him, Mommy. He did a bad thing to me, but I did good, right, Mommy? I told you what happened. I said, yes, you told me what happened, Krishima, and that was very good of you. You know, but I try to just talk with her, you know, and reassure her and show her that I love her, you know. And that's all I know what to do, how to do. I don't know really what to do. But I just do the best I can and show her that I really love her. And I'm sorry it happened.
Abuse of children in that form is not a normal characteristic of being in daycare.
Harvard psychologist Jerome Kagan has studied daycare in America.
It's a freakish event. It horrifies us, and we have all a proper feeling of revulsion for it. But fortunately, it is a rare event, and the vast majority of children in daycare centers in America are not subject to that kind of treatment.
In fact, many experts say that there is more sexual abuse of children in the home than there is in daycare centers. These parents are bringing their children to a Boston center called Infants and Other People. Centers like this one guard against any possible abuse of children in a number of ways, especially by intensive screening of new workers.
Mama, you want to say bye-bye, Mommy? Say bye-bye. Oh, one of your fans, Nikki, I saw Nikki. Did you?
All hiring is done by a committee made up of parent volunteers, staff volunteers, and one of the administrators. And there's an extensive interviewing process. And each candidate will do a tryout in the classroom, spend a day or half a day working in the classroom and being observed by members of the committee.
Scott Kinnaman is a head teacher at the Boston Center. He also says that it is very important to involve parents in the day-to-day work as much as possible.
We have to take a while. Johnny's sister's done the same thing. One of the things that we try to do here is we encourage a lot of parent participation. And a parent that spends a lot of time exploring the classroom with the child and talking to the teachers, et cetera, is very in touch with the daycare center. Their fears are alleviated real quick because they get to have somewhat of an intimate sense of how their child spends the day, and there's a trust building that goes on.
Training is very good. We certainly researched it well enough. We certainly know our child very, very well.
Barbara Spears is a real estate agent. Her husband, Chris, is a marketing consultant. They have just begun bringing their 14-month-old son, Ethan, to the center in Boston.
See you tomorrow.
Practically speaking, you don't have a lot of choice. If both parents have to work, you've got to come to grips with that, number one. Economically, that's sort of the big issue.
That reported cases of sexual abuse of children are increasing in 43 of the 50 states.
The child abuse scandals have turned national attention to the subject of daycare, but working parents have been wrestling with this difficult question for some time. Is daycare basically good for their children?
A child's best chance in life is when the majority of the waking hours in the first 3 years of life are spent with nuclear family, parents or grandparents.
Dr. Burton White, director of Boston's Center for Parent Education, thinks too many daycare center workers are poorly paid and poorly motivated, with too many children to look after. And he says infections are more prevalent in the centers.
The broader picture of the substitute care system is an atrocity. And there are rat holes out there where people are making a living from low-priced babysitting, basically, where they don't know anything about child development and where they just can't provide the kind of love and knowledgeable, informed input that we want to see for as many babies as possible.
Max, here's Max. Mira's gonna kick the ball. Ready?
Other authorities disagree completely. Research is still underway, but some current studies indicate that a child can develop just as well in a good center as he can at home, in terms of verbal skill, independence, and emotional growth.
Come over here. Come on, Max.
Psychologist Jerome Kagan thinks the majority of American centers can do the work.
Good daycare means in the first 2 years of life, no more than 3 infants to 1 caretaker, and during the toddler years, 2 through 5, let's say no more than 6 or 7 children per caretaker. Second, that the values of the caretaker match the values of the family. If you meet those criteria, then as I look at the research and as my colleagues look at the research, daycare doesn't seem to have a profound effect on children.
What's the cow say?
What's that?
Good daycare can cost as much as $5,000 a year for each child. Some centers are operated for profit. Others, like Infants and Other People in Boston, are non-profit, run by churches, civic groups, employers, and unions. Non-profit centers for low and moderate income families have felt the brunt of the Reagan administration cutbacks in support funds for daycare. Supporters and opponents of daycare both feel that the federal government is letting them down, and both sides argue strenuously for federal help.
There's never been anything around that anybody's found that's better for raising a human being than family.
Burton White wants the federal government to stop supporting daycare and channel the money toward aid and assistance for individual families so that they can take care of their own children.
I think the federal government in this country has done an atrocious job in this area. They've neglected it, as well as the other broader needs of families starting to raise children.
And daycare workers like Scott Kinnaman want federal support for the daycare centers.
70% of daycare workers in the country are paid below poverty level wages. And that makes it very hard to continue it. That eats away at your dedication.
Regina Jones is a single parent with 2 children. She wants federal support for daycare so that she can get off welfare as soon as possible.
My goal is to complete my education at the University of Massachusetts so that I can get back into the working force, simply because I have an income of below $5,000, which makes it unbearable to live, which means that it is difficult to have resources like a daycare. Daycare is costly, and I get what is called a voucher slot by its good graces of the government. I want to work so bad that I can taste it, and tasting it it's like having a slice of the apple pie, all-American, you know, the way of life, and that sort of thing. That is exactly what I want. The all-American dream, the house, 2-car in the garage, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a joke,
but without daycare, you can't have it?
Without daycare, there would be, for me, there would be no way that I could have it at all.
Alyssa Fenster is a therapist. Her husband is a doctor just beginning his practice. Although she would rather keep working, she has decided to stay home for 5 years and only use part-time daycare because she thinks it will be better for the children.
Who are these people? My role models, my mother and my grandmothers, stayed home. And I think that produced, you know, healthy children. They cry, it needs to be satisfied. The wants are simple: hunger and sleep and nurturing and touching. And my sense was that if a child, an infant, was in a setting with other children, just by sheer numbers, not everybody could be attended to as soon as their needs made themselves known.
Now this is the one. This is the one Tony wants. Tell me about Antonio. Ta-da! You ready? Here it comes.
Each family has to decide what is the best way to take care of children. Anxiety about sexual abuse is one issue right now, but there are deeper issues that are never fully resolved. Each family has to decide what is the best way to take care of the children.
Yeah, you know, this is where you
sleep, huh?
Deborah Searcy, horrified by charges of sexual abuse, decided against daycare.
You know, I know they're good to have and everything because a lot of parents work and need it. And the daycare center was very good for the kids. It taught them a lot. You know, they went on a lot of trips and everything. But it would take a while before I would send them back to daycare.
Regina Jones decided for daycare because it will help her get back to work and give her children a better future.
Some people will usually say to me that, why do you have your daughter in a daycare? And I try to make people understand that it's not that I don't love my child, because I do. Because if I didn't love my child, she wouldn't be in a daycare so that I could be able to accomplish my goal.
Alyssa Fenster decided for limited amounts of daycare.
I think of children as my link to immortality in a personal way. And I see them as hope for the future, and that helping to shape and to mold a young life is a mammoth task.
Today, the conclusion of our series on women who have their children when the women are older. The number of women between 30 and 34 giving birth for the first time more than doubled between 1970 and 79. While the age category still accounts for only 7% of the first babies born in America, there clearly is a baby boom among professional women in their 30s who establish themselves in their careers and then start families. Some of the women return to work voluntarily, others are forced to by hard times. But in either case, they end up juggling motherhood and career and creating problems both for themselves and their companies.
Personnel, Mary Cooper. Hi, Lorraine.
Mary Cooper is
Great.
35. She's also personnel manager for the Addison Wesley Publishing Company in Menlo Park, California. But before she accepted her current position 4 years ago, she knew she had a small surprise in store for her prospective boss.
Well, I should tell you, this situation was a little unique in that when I was interviewing with Addison Wesley as well as with some other companies, I knew I was pregnant and was a little reluctant to say that until I had an offer. And once Lori made the offer to me, I then told her, there's something I think you need to know.
Mary's boss, Lori Wasserman Arthur, responded in a supportive way. In addition to being vice president of Addison Wesley, she is also the mother of a young child.
There's no distinction in my mind between a woman who has children and a woman who doesn't have children. However, as a female, I identify with the problems. I don't have any concern that she's not going to do the job as well.
Even so, Lori Arthur knew she was hiring someone who would have to take a maternity leave at a critical time for the company. Mary took only a 6-week maternity leave, half the national average of 3 months for working mothers. And at home with Kim, who is now 3, her thoughts often turned to her office.
There were moments when I would be talking to Lori about something, and I can remember feeling tied back into that whole rhythm and the urgency and the priorities. There were flashes of it.
But the toughest conflict began when Mary got ready to go back to work.
There's this wonderful child here, and I'm really enjoying this child, and am I going to be doing the right thing? And I was really looking for reassurance and didn't find any at that period that I was thinking going back. So I can remember towards the end in that first week of dropping Kim off and crying all the way to work about the ambivalence of, am I doing what's right?
While the corporate world is gradually changing to accommodate family life, many traditional concepts are still in place. Paternity leaves for the father, for example, are still rare. In a national survey of more than 300 companies, only 9% reported they had such a policy, compared to 96%, which reported maternity leave policies. Mary's husband, Tom Cooper, did not take a leave when their child was born.
I tried, at one point was a union negotiator for a federal employees union, and I tried to negotiate for paternity leave with management.
And then 7 years later, we don't even think of it ourselves.
Right, 7 years later, we didn't even think of it ourselves.
But Tom, who is a management consultant, understands the corporate side of the coin, and it is a dollar and cents issue.
All gone? If someone sets up a daycare center, an organization, it costs them money.
Is that her?
If you have free maternity leave, women do need these things, and they ought to have more of a choice.
Well,
at the same
men
time,
too.
well, men too, exactly. But at the same time, they've got some costs.
But the bottom line for mothers like Mary is a basic question of how to make it all possible.
We are saying we're having it all. I think the question we have to ask ourselves is at what cost? And to try to pay attention to making it manageable, looking for things in your work situation, your family situation, in your friend's situation, to make the having it all workable.
And so we conclude our series on older women who have children. And I suppose in conclusion, you can only say, as you well know, Bill, there is no formula for the right time to have a child. But with the dramatic statistics on the number of women who are having children at an older age, you have to conclude the trend is on its way in and not on its way down.
Government figures out today confirm what many of us know already, that whether by choice or economic necessity, more and more American mothers of young children are doubling up with jobs earning a paycheck. Phil Jones looks tonight at the high social cost of this major change in society and the demand for help with the high expense and low availability of daycare for the children of women workers.
8 a.m. in a Washington daycare center, Mother Cindy LeBay and 7-month-old Kenneth are about to say goodbye for the day. It's a ritual more and more infants and their mothers are having to get used to. According to government statistics revealed today, the number of mothers with children under age 1 who are working mothers has risen 30% in just 5 years. Today, nearly 45% of all mothers with children under a year have jobs outside the home.
All these working women means that the demand for child care is increasing dramatically. At the same time, the availability of child care is not. It is estimated that licensed programs like this one have room for only 1 in 8 preschool children with working mothers.
Washington's Rosemont Center has space for 135 children. The waiting list is closed at 250. Kathy Renke is one of those on this waiting list. She is a widow with a 4-month-old infant. Kathy is a medical technician and was supposed to go back to work April 1st. But so far, she hasn't found anyone to care for 4-month-old Max.
They gave me 1 more month, and then they weren't going to hold my job anymore. So I have now less than a month to find somebody.
But while some are pushing for more government subsidies for child care, others are proposing that the problem be solved by a return to the ways of yesteryear.
We strongly suggest that another approach to the problem be investigated. That of bringing home the many mothers who do work who would rather be at home, who would rather not have their children in daycare in the first place.
What can I do? I can't stay at home. I can't stay at home. And what am I going to live on? I'm the sole support of this family.
Pressure for daycare services is increasing. But for now, women like Kathy Renke are left to seek home care they say they can't afford.
Do you understand that I will pay $30 a day?
Phil Jones, CBS News, Washington.